Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Mess. So today I got a fun and random episode for you guys this Friday, because for the longest time I've been trying to get an original Code 1 Dispatch PCB in my collection, and I now have it. It is everything I'd hoped it would be, and I hoped it would be fun, hilarious, and janky, and it delivers on all three of those fronts. This may be one of the most ridiculous arcade games Konami has ever made, and if it's a good game or a bad game, I'm not sure, but I know it's a hell of a lot of fun, and I love it. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But this is absolutely 2000 era's 3D jank from the arcades, and if you watch my channel or you know me, you know I love that. And I'm still not sure if this game is good or bad, but I will tell you I absolutely love everything it's doing, and I have a giant smile on my face. Any game where you can do this, I 100% have to love it. It's got huge San Francisco Rush vibes, except it's not a racing game. It is more of like a comedy challenge game, for lack of a better term. Because I will show you shortly, we're not just going to be driving police cars, we're going to be firing a tank in a faux Godzilla. But each stage has this little story vignette. If you ever played Emergency Call Ambulance from Sega, some of it's going to seem familiar, because this game definitely seems to be inspired, at least in part, by that series from Sega. But right off the top, we get this body into our ambulance, and if we don't get there in time, it will be a corpse. And we jump onto this cruise ship, take a ramp, fly through the ceiling, get a secret bonus, and end up at ground level while that body's almost falling out of the back of the ambulance. This game is a 10 out of 10 in the personality department. It tries so hard to be humorous, fun, and action-packed every single second, and you cannot look away from the screen, whether you're jumping an ambulance out of a cruise ship or plowing through vehicles on the road. It just cannot be beat with what it's trying to do, and there's not many games like this. It is kind of a genre amongst itself. As you see here, these robbers are robbing the bank, and we're going to very quickly get a call, obviously Code 1 Dispatch being the title. We're going to throw the handbrake, swing the car around, and be right into the level. Each stage has one primary goal. Get to the goal. You have a timer, and all you need to do is make sure you get there before it runs out. It is simple as that. But this has big San Francisco Rush vibes, and the amount of jumps, shortcuts, and other just wacky things you can do. The physics are unlike any vehicle you've ever driven in real life, and big credit for this game taking place in Chicago. I drive by this area basically every single day, and the Art Institute is on the right with those lions. That's part of the reason I wanted this game, because it was Chicago based, and I just knew it looked janky and fun, and boy does it deliver. It is just that type of game. It is not going to be on any best games of all time list, but I think it should be experienced by absolutely everyone, because it is hilarious. Getting that cop car up onto two wheels, jumping it around, hitting the sirens and the turbo, gliding through Millennium Park era here. It is just so much fun. Now I will say that I didn't really get the geography of Chicago right, because you're not here from there, but it doesn't really matter, because you're going to be able to jump one of the elevated bridges, giving you a real Blues Brothers vibe going on there. But Code 1 Dispatch is going to borrow from a lot of different film franchises, because in the next stage you're going to see this water circle coming out of the ground, and a kaiju that's kind of like a cross between Godzilla and a T-Rex is going to pop out, and then you need to drive a tank all the way through Chicago City to be able to defeat that kaiju with the tank. And when I said that sometimes that action button has a different function, there is no turbo for the tank, but it can basically plow through anything, and if there is something in your way, you just double tap action, and you're going to shoot a shell from the tank, destroying whatever is in front of you. But of course it wouldn't be a game for Chicago if you didn't go through O'Hare, and I will say those fences on the right are exactly where they should be, so it seems like in some instances they got the details perfectly, they just managed not to understand exactly the layout of downtown. But it's just so much fun. What other game do you get to drive a tank shooting off shells while you're racing towards the goal? Every single level gives you something different to do, and I haven't even shown you half of it yet. But just throwing that shell there and blowing up the cars to get them out of my way, it's hilarious. I do not know where this idea came from. Not a lot of the history or development of this game is known, but I'm so glad that it's in my collection, because I want to jump a tank in an arcade racing game all day long. It's not core fundamental racing like something like San Francisco Rush is, but it has that same sense of whimsy and just magic physics that San Francisco Rush brings you. And sometimes it'll just throw you right into a jump into a wall, but that is just how it happens. When we get to the goal, and the military here is going to put down our faux Godzilla. But I will say this game also has a really good soundtrack with a lot of good and janky voice acting, so go ahead and listen for like 45 seconds and I'll come back and talk more about the game.
Okay, the goods have been delivered. Don't let him cross the border. Go after him. Roger. It's showtime.
The music, the sound effects, the siren noise are exactly what you need in a game like Code 1 Dispatch. It's kind of got that upbeat, jazzy action movie soundtrack, because that is what this game is. It is playing a real live action movie. But I will say, like I did earlier, the physics in this game are just absolutely insane. There is no planet that we've ever been on where the physics for a car handle like this. The steering is loose, you're constantly going to be flying into the wall, you're going to be pinballing off vehicles, but that is obviously 100% intentional. This is supposed to feel like a breakneck chase to the goal. If your car controlled too well, it wouldn't be anywhere near as fun. Something like Thrill Drive 2 that I just talked about, the car is perfect in that game, but the entire goal is to not hit anything to get to the end without actually crashing. Code 1 Dispatch is completely different. You are supposed to crash, you're supposed to mangle vehicles, you're supposed to jump around and fly through the air, and you're supposed to make mistakes. That is where all the fun in this game comes from. And I swear I know exactly where that fire department is, and it's near a Korean grocery store I go to. I have been in this neighborhood, and this game really does do a great job in spots of putting me in places that I can drive to within 20-25 minutes. But of course it wouldn't be a game about Chicago if there wasn't a big fire. That is obviously part of our lineage, and I love the fire truck level so much. There is no turbo, but if you want to clear things out of your way, you just double tap the action button and that ladder is going to swing in a 360, destroying absolutely everything around it. I do not think that is what the fire department should be doing in real life, but in Code 1 Dispatch it 100% works. This is just the type of game that is pure spectacle, and it is so much fun to play. I'm never going to put this on a list next to something like Ridge Racer or Daytona USA and say it's one of the best arcade racing games of all time, but it is one of the arcade games in my collection that gives me the biggest smile when I play it, and that is always important. Some games don't need to be amazing, they just need to make you have fun. You can love a game that's a B-tier game, you can love a game that's a terrible game. So long as you're enjoying it, it is good to you. And that's what Code 1 Dispatch does, jumping over that elevated bridge while all of these meteors start raining down fire. It is just so much fun. And trust me, there is a reason why fire is raining from the sky, because you need to get the secret ending to this game to understand exactly what's happening in the first place. I will show it to you in the end, and I will put a whole gameplay capture of this after I'm done with the narration. But who doesn't want to jump an 18-wheeler over a train track through an entire shopping mall to try to collect this goose spill that has happened? And if you can't tell, those goose spills are taking the shape of a ghost or some sort of man. It is weird, and there's all this underlying story in Code 1 Dispatch that you do not understand unless you get that secret ending. But again, just going through downtown here back to the ambulance level, each stage will reuse some assets from the previous one. You may have to go downtown in 3 levels, but it's always going to branch you off into a different area. And there's so much traffic in this game. I am playing it on normal difficulty, but if you increase the difficulty to hard, the road is clogged with the traffic just like Chicago normally is. But going underneath the elevated trains here, or the L, I will tell you it never comes to ground level, but if it did, someone would be stupid enough to drive on it in real life. Because pretty much every year at least 2 to 3 cars get on Lakeshore Path, the pedestrian lake path, and sometimes they even hit people. So if you could actually jump an ambulance off the L in real life, someone would have done it by now. And honestly, we jump trains upstairs at O'Hare anyway in real life, so pretty much don't ever think Chicago can't do something, because we always find a way. But I love how each individual stage kind of loops back on itself, because as opposed to going straight here at a previous level, we're going to take a right with this 18-wheeler tanker tank, and we're going to go underneath the ground and basically navigate around the trains here. This is just hilarious, and I can't think of another game that does things this wild. Maybe something like Reckless the Yakuza Missions could stand close to it, but Code 1 Dispatch just does its own thing. It wears a sense of humor on its sleeve, and I love it for that. Because what other game do you get to fly a helicopter in an arcade racing game through downtown Chicago? Do not ask me why this helicopter isn't in the sky, that it's going through traffic. It makes no sense whatsoever, but we get to fly it right past Buckingham Fountain and do a little hedge trimming for the city of Chicago before we get to the ultimate goal as to where we're going, which is the river to save someone drowning. Again, happens all the time. I don't know how they could have come up with the idea of this game. I feel like someone was definitely playing Emergency Call Ambulance from Sega, and they thought they could do a better job. This is not a better game than Emergency Call the Ambulance. That game is definitely more technically competent. But Code 1 Dispatch is a hell of a lot funnier, it's a hell of a lot more charming, and it just does absolutely everything I want. Of course, it's got that 2000s era humor. You do a turbo with the presidential limousine, and a woman in a bikini comes out of a hot tub that is installed in the back. Seems kind of like a Bill Clinton joke, but a lot too late because this came out in 2000 and Bill Clinton was not around whatsoever. But if you remember Cruisin' USA, for some reason presidents and bikinied women go together, and Konami did not forget that. But honestly, you get to jump the president's limo through what looks to be the Art Institute of Chicago. It is just hilarious. I've never seen another game go this hard with all of its antics, and that's why I love Code 1 Dispatch so much. And I know I said earlier I was going to leave you a long play after this video. I'm actually going to put it at a different date just because I want to save it for a spot I need. But if you want to see all of the craziness that this game has to offer, do stand by for that. Because this is the type of thing, there are barely any captures of this on YouTube, and this is all done with original hardware. Now if you haven't noticed, I've been getting all of those secret bonuses throughout different levels, and they change your times on how long it's taken you to complete the game, and you can get a secret ending, which is Space Rescue. Now what do you do here? Absolutely nothing. You just hold your foot on the accelerator, and you will very shortly take off into space. But why are we taking off into space in the first place? Well, all of that fire raining down, all of those goo monsters, all the things that didn't make any sense other than the fact that you were playing a video game, were caused by one thing. And Konami loves putting these in endings. It's aliens, folks. They're the reason that the entire storyline of Code 1 Dispatch happened in the first place. It's basically the secret alien ending from Silent Hill in a racing game. Short of that, I love this. Bye-bye.